talk about the check engine light. You can see in my car it's just the outline of an engine. Sometimes it has the word check engine. In my old Camaro, it used to say service engine soon. All of those are kind of a misnomer, actually, because, well, the technical name for it is Malfunction Indicator Light, or MIL is what they technically call it, because the computer has detected a malfunction in the engine. Somewhere in the engine there's a lot of different things the computer checks, especially in newer cars. If you have an old carbureted car, there's probably no check engine light or any sensors at all, unless it was one of the electronically controlled carburetors. Those, I remember a Chevy truck that used to have a electronically controlled carburetor, and it had a check engine light, but it was from the 80s, I'm thinking, and it didn't have, it was before OBD II. So we talked about the lights. Let's talk about the ports. Before OBD II, which came in 1996, there was OBD I, which some cars had, but that was not regulated. That was just car manufacturers decided they wanted a diagnostic port for their own technicians to use, or the customers could use it if they had an OBD I scanner. But those had pretty limited data on them. The law changed in '96 and forced every car sold in the USA to have an OBD II port, and there's a number of standard codes that are the same for all cars. The engines aren't the same in every car, obviously, and not even the sensors are all the same, but they all had to report certain malfunctions, and that's what we're looking for now. And I'm going to go see what caused my engine light to come on, so I'm going to pause now. Okay, let's talk about the OBD II port. I'm not going to talk about the OBD I because it's just not that useful and it's not around very much anymore. But somewhere by the driver's knees, if you can't see it, then you got to go down under, and actually I see it right there in this case. Sometimes it's over there. Sometimes there's a little door right around here that flips down. It may say OBD on it, or it may not say anything. And I noticed some of the Hondas and maybe some of the Toyotas, it's somewhere in the dash, in the center console. I suggest, if you can't find it easily, I would say Google OBD II port, and I would give the car model and year, and then say location, something like that, and hopefully you'll be able to find your port that way. If it's an American car or sold in America and it's 1996 or later, it's got to have a port by law. So that's all I'm going to say about finding the port, because there's just so many possibilities. But once you found it, now let's talk about different scanners you can hook up. And one thing you can do is you can just go to many of the parts chains will give you a free scan, and they'll usually have like a cheap tool like this one. This is one I got a long time ago. Turns out these are not compatible with iPhones, and I mean I used it all the time when I had an Android phone. But this is a Bluetooth interface, so you pop it in the port and you pair it with your phone, and you get a free app. Forgot which one I used to use. And it'll even do live data. It'll do all the things, most of the things that an expensive scanner like this one will do. This scanner I got actually for my wife one and my daughter one to just put in their car, and if I'm not there and the light comes on, this is simple enough for them to use, and they cost about $25. And all it does is read codes and erase codes. That's all it can do. This one can actually show live data if you have the phone, or you can probably get one that's compatible with iPhones now. I'm not sure, I haven't tried. But I'm going to hook up this one because I'm going to show you how to read live data. This one will also let's show you how to hook this up under here. So it has like a trapezoidal shape. There's a big end and a small end, and you gotta put it on right, so it goes on like that. And the port has power, so it'll power up your thing, your scanner. But in order to read the computer, you've got to turn the computer on. So you've got to turn the key on, and in this case it's a push button. Just one push and I turn that on. And now I'm going to close the door so I don't keep getting that. And this scanner will do ABS and SRS, so airbags and anti-lock brakes. Oh, and I had an anti-lock brake sensor warning on. I'll have to check that later. But today we're talking about OBD, so I'm going to select OBD and press OK. And now it's trying to figure out what language my car speaks. There are different protocols, and it's okay. It linked up and it read the computer, and the computer says the malfunction indicator light is on, and it found 2 codes. So let's read the codes. I'm sorry, I just have to press OK. And scroll down, read codes, read stored codes. There's also pending codes. Okay, mass, volume, airflow. Okay, it doesn't like the airflow sensor, and it doesn't like the air intake temperature sensor. Well, I happen to know those are combined, and in order to get that light to go on to show you, I actually unplugged the plug for both of those sensors, and that's why the light came on. And so now I'm going to say okay, save or whatever, or escape. I'm going to back up, and I'm going to back up again, and I'm going to back up again until I get to erase codes. I'm going to erase codes, and when I do that, let's see, erase codes, okay. Do I want to erase? Yes. Erase, done. Okay, I have no more codes now. And The light will stay on only because I had the engine on without starting it. I had the ignition on, but I didn't have the engine running. But if I start it again now, the light will be off. You can see every light is doing a bulb test. Okay, when you see all your lights come on, that's to test the bulbs. If you don't see a light coming on when you start the car, it means the bulb is probably burned out in your instrument panel. The seatbelt light is still on because I'm not wearing my seatbelt. Alright, so let's see, that's what I wanted to say about that. Let's drive the car back into the garage. And I noticed somehow my anti-lock brake, the little skid mark indicator went off. That's nice. I don't know why what set that in the first place. Normally it's something like a wheel speed sensor. Okay, let's pause again. Okay, I forgot to mention to you the two other things other than reading codes and erase codes. That's all I could do with this cheap scanner, but that may be enough, because I'm going to put a couple links in the description. One is a link to a good link to a place where you can look up codes and try to diagnose them. It helps you with diagnosis and tells you what to look for. And I also have another link to one of my web pages that tells you whether or not it's safe to drive with certain codes, and it tells you kind of what the code is and whether or not it's safe to drive and how far you can drive and so forth. But the other thing that you can do with a good scanner, this one's fairly good, but before I go into this, let me tell you, the best scanners are the ones that are made for the car. Like a GM scanner, you can open vent valves, you can open purge valves, you can troubleshoot all the way down to the component. You can test at the component level right from the scanner. It lets you turn things on and off. This one won't do that. This is just OBD II, so it doesn't know how to turn things on and off in this car. But I can read live data. That's what it's on there. The other thing it'll do is when the mill is on, the computer stores all the data it gets at that moment. It takes a snapshot of all the data, and that might help you troubleshoot why the mill light came on. So it does that, and this will read that. This will also tell you if the computer has run all of its emission tests. That's in IM readiness, emission readiness. I'm not going to talk about that so much though. Under live data though, I use that sometimes. I mean, you can use that to read the temperature, because I don't have a temperature gauge on this, so if I wanted to know the temperature, I actually need something like this to read the sensors. So it's pulling in all of the data, but I just want to do, well, okay, we can do a complete list or we can do a custom list, and it'll put a little gauge on here, and I can do things like, well, I can look at the oxygen sensors to see how much oxygen is getting through the system. There's the RPMs. You can see RPMs is about 1,000. Spark Advance, okay, that's all automated. Mass airflow, looks like 0 there. Okay, it's idling, so it's gonna be low. Let's see. Just wanna evaporation percent. That's evap system. Barometric barometric pressure 14.5. See, I think sea level is 14.6 or 14.7, something like that. So it's measuring pressure. And not all cars have all the same sensors. Not all cars have all the same emission systems either. But emissions is a big part of it. But also, the idea of OBD II was to help your non-dealer mechanics, third-party type mechanics, to figure things out that are wrong. There's the speed sensor, VSS, vehicle speed sensor. Spark advance, we saw that once before. Mass airflow. I was looking for something like the throttle position. I use that sometimes if the throttle is not working right. This is an electronic throttle, but even when the throttle is run by a cable, the car typically still has a throttle position sensor. If it's run by wire, it will also have a accelerator position sensor, because the accelerator pedal itself, when the throttle is operated electronically, the accelerator pedal is actually like a rheostat. So you can actually read the output of how far you have your foot down on the accelerator. And I'm just not seeing those right now. There's the air intake temperature is 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Mass airflow again. Oh, throttle position right there. See that one in the blue now? Throttle position. I can open it and close it as I rev it. You can see that goes up and down. And I didn't see accelerator position, but when the throttle's not working right or the accelerator pedal's not working right, this is really good data. And this car doesn't have it, but a good one. There's this car over here, a Mustang. It has on the fuel rail, it has a fuel pressure sensor, and so you'll see if I was running in that car, we would come up on fuel pressure, and we could tell whether the fuel pump is putting out enough pressure if it meets specs. So you can check a lot of your sensors against the specs using this live data. So that's why I wanted to show you that. You don't have to buy a good one of these to read that kind of data. I'm going to pause again. Well, I was checking my notes and I noticed a few things I forgot to discuss, and I'll put all these notes in the description for you, and also both of those links, the one to look up the trouble codes and get information on the trouble codes and how to go about troubleshooting. It might tell you a little bit there, but also the emergency page that I put up. I forgot to mention that in the old days, before there was OBD II, there were trouble codes on many cars, especially I think Honda. Yeah, Honda had a way, and Chevy and Ford too. I think they had ways where you grounded a certain terminal in the OBD I port or something like that, and the light would actually blink codes. The light would come on in the dash and it would blink longs and shorts to give you a number, and you'd look that up in a table somewhere for your car, and it would be like an OBD code, but it was more like OBD I type information. I mentioned that you don't need a scanner if you just want to, your engine light comes on, you want to see what it is, you can just go to like a O'Reilly's or AutoZone or Pep Boys, and they'll give you a free scan. But make sure you write down those codes. Don't let them just say, oh, it's your O2 sensor or whatever. Usually it's not. Those guys are not mechanics. They sell parts. So keep that in mind. Write down the codes and then go home and look them up. And I don't think those guys typically will clear the codes for you, but that's okay. You want to fix the problem, whatever it is. And once you fix the problem, the codes will probably clear themselves. After a certain number of drive cycles, the computer will run those same tests again that caused the code last time. But if the problem's been repaired, then it'll unlight, it'll turn the light off. But if for some reason you can't, I mean, the most logical thing, and besides the cheap OBD sensors you can, scanners you can get now, they also have, like the plug-in one I showed you, the Bluetooth one, they have more expensive Bluetooth ones, like Fixed or something, I think is the name of it. It gives you a little bit more information. Still, it's giving you an OBD code, and it doesn't know, it can't know the information you're going to get by troubleshooting the car. And I can't help you troubleshoot the car really, because I don't know what car you have. You're probably going to need wiring diagrams, or you might need wiring diagrams. You're going to have to do certain steps, and if I had your car, I could tell you what steps to take. But I mean, you can comment that to me, or get a hold of me somehow if you want help. But that's not really what this video is about. Okay, let me check my notes. Oh, I wanted to talk about, so if the engine light comes on while you're driving, and you want to know, is it safe to drive? Well, if you're not having any symptoms, it's probably safe to drive. But you don't know how far, because if it's something like your pedal position sensor, you know, your accelerator pedal, if the car doesn't know that, ooh, it doesn't know where to put the throttle, right? That one actually might cause the light to blink. But if it's, you know, you kind of want to know what it is, right? Even if it's something trivial like an evaporation, some air escaping from your fuel tank, and a little bit of gasoline vapors escaping. That I actually have a video on my YouTube site about how to investigate that. And if you have that code in California, you can't register the car. You have to fix those types of leaks. But I mean, you only have to fix it before you register, right? It's not an emergency type of code unless you're really into the environment and worried about that. But I guarantee you, there's cars all over China that are dumping hydrocarbons into the air constantly. So whether your car has a small leak in the evap system, I don't think makes a lot of difference. Sorry, that's just how I see it. Anyway, so, but if that light is blinking, I would stop as soon as possible. And I'm putting the link to my emergency situation. So if you have a scanner, maybe you want to download this. If you don't have, wherever you are, if you have a scanner and you scan it, you still don't know what I know necessarily, and you might need this table. And so you'd have to have internet access. You'd have to have some bars on your phone to be able to click this link that I'm giving you, and find out what I say about, can you drive the car, or, you know, what exactly is going on with your car. I give that kind of information in this table. But getting back to, if the light is blinking, you could damage your car by driving while that light is blinking. The car may be overheating. It may be about to lose the timing chain and bend all your valves, things like that. will cause it to blink. And also when it's blinking, the car will probably, the computer will put the car in limp mode because it wants to reduce the power. It wants you to drive slow, so it's not going to let you go fast. It's going to reduce the power, reduce the throttle, whatever it takes to keep you in a safe mode, as safe as it can be, and still allow you to drive. That's called limp mode. So so that's about all I can tell you in a video without knowing more about the car and the fault codes you found. But this tells you how to get the fault codes and go from there. Thanks for watching.